And we begin this evening with some delegations. So first, and I think they're out in the lobby and they're going to come this way, we have folks from the BEAP program, the Business Empowerment Advocacy Program, coming to tell us a little bit about the work they do. So come on up, you guys, and take the podium and let us know about BEAP.
I'm a little short, sorry.
That's all right. Luckily, it is completely movable, and as long as you're close to it and the light goes red, people out there in TV land can also hear you.
We can't hear out here at all.
Is there audio on the TV out there, Jennifer, or is it just?
We'll fix it.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, go ahead.
Hi guys, my name is Kirsten. I work for Impact Society in Abbotsford, and we kind of migrated our way out here once we kind of got to know some of the community members out here that still wanted us to come out and give them a hand. So we help run the group called BEAP, which is the Business Engagement Ambassador Program. It's listed a little bit differently on the itinerary
I'm
there.
glad
That's
that
okay.
word makes much more sense to me than empowerment. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so what we do is we bridge the gap between the street community as well as the rest of the community of Mission. There's a lot of stigma around people who may not have houses, where it's an unfortunate circumstance that can happen to anybody, really. I know I've worked every day of my life, and there are certain days where I'm like, man, I don't know if I can make rent. I better make a tent. It's not a very good feeling, and just because you don't have walls around your home doesn't mean that it's not your home. And when we see, man, that person has a lot of things around them, imagine what people would think if you don't actually have walls around your house, and they would just think you just have a lot of things too. We brought some pictures to show you, and I'd like Jordy to kind of give out the mission statement for you guys to understand a little bit more detail.
Perfect.
So hello, I'm Jordy. I am the Indigenous Co-Executive Director in Training at Impact. So here is kind of like the big questions that our peers originally came up with when creating BEAP. Do you have any ideas how to improve relationships between the street and housed people in our community? What might it take for you to see the homeless and housed communities as one? What might this be a vision worth working towards? Homelessness may be the most visible symptom of isolation in our community, but we can all think of someone close to us who has experienced isolation in other ways. We found working together has turned isolation into community, helping alleviate some of these symptoms with a purpose. And then our BEAP members will share.
Rick.
Hi, my name is Jenny Robbins. I'm here just to show my gratitude to be part of this program. So the BEAP program has been amazing. They just came in, out of nowhere and gave everyone, people, homeless people, anyone that actually showed initiative and wanted to help the community by cleaning. You know what I mean? It's not so much about what we're getting paid, but it's that feeling of pride, which is very important, I feel, for especially the homeless community who have been they have nothing at this point, and they need that motivation to bring themselves up and to give themselves an opportunity to maybe get a good reference, to maybe change, their feeling. And all that takes is that little bit of a spark to have them, you know what I mean, begin their new life, because that is what's important. It's so easily to be caught in stagnation and depression, you know what I mean? And so this little bit of hope, what we do is we come in and take a destroyed area and then bring it back to its natural environment, which is amazing. And you'll see the birds come in, you'll see the chipmunks running around, and you know what I mean? It's uplifting, and it completely has changed my life. Because let's face it, I'm at the Diamond Head right now because everyone's a paycheck or two away from being homeless, especially rent skyrocketed, prices skyrocketing. Nobody can barely afford to live anymore. And that's the truth of it, so there's no shame in having stuff break down. And this group has really, really done so much to give us that sense of pride. And so we're reaching out we're proud of ourselves. We wanted to show you guys the things that are happening around the city that nobody really knows about. And it's we feel that we want a better image for people that maybe, everyone kind of wants to judge and, shrug under the carpet and get rid of them. But you know what? They are so excited to be part of the community and doing something to change. And you could just see that little glint in their eye, and you can just tell that, all it takes is that to have them start on the right road to get them off the streets and then make Mission look better. And that's what's important for everyone, I believe. So we really want to just emphasize that we want to be part of the community and we want to stay. Our funding is running short, you know what I mean? And so if we could just reach out and say we are important, we are doing great things, and we have all the work or the backup to like show anyone that's interested in it. So pictures are here, we have photo albums, we just want to show you guys we're here, we're helping, we want to stay, being able to motivate everyone and like keep this like going. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kirsten.
I want you guys to hear straight from the horse's mouth. How is it going? I could be as biased as I want and say how great this group is, but that's just because I'm really proud. I just really want some of the members here to tell you guys from their firsthand experience. So one of this thing about being ambassadors and having community, having a community engagement with the businesses is a lot of the homeless community will leave messes behind because there's no garbage pickup that comes around to homeless camps. I know if I miss garbage day and it's every other week, yeah, it's a really hard time to try and pick it up if you miss it. Part of that, we have some regular homeless encampments that we have been cleaning up. Just going there more so for a semi-regular garbage pickup routine. And it makes it look a lot better to other people who are looking at their belongings as they drive by on a regular basis, but it also bridges the gap between us and the community. We do have a cleanup coming in at the end of this week at Superstore. Superstore really wants to give us a shot. I understand that that's kind of a big ask for them because I'm sure that's one of those big department stores that's very easy to five-finger discount yourself. But they want to take the initiative to give us a chance and fix that. We're able to pay an honorarium to anyone who comes out to volunteer with us to help clean up the environment. With that, they're earning their money. They have money that they don't need to go out and steal. They don't need to go break things. They can do whatever they please with that, and they've earned it. They've worked hard. They've taken the time. They've taken the initiative to come out on their own accord. I don't judge anybody ever, so it's really nice that they can come out and not feel afraid.
The money is also considered therapeutic working money, which means that it does not take away from any welfare checks or anything else, since they are working as like a therapy or a treatment for anything that they might be struggling with themselves.
Thank you.
There's also, there's a couple pictures on here of baby snakes. Not everyone here is a snake fan, but it's just one of the pictures that I had to show that we are cleaning up the environment, not only just for the people who live in the community, but also the other native animals that are around here. So finding them thriving in these areas that you look at a lot of garbage being piled up in, which is now being cleared away to have them as a natural habitat, is a really nice feeling as well. Cleaning up needles and other debris that I don't want anyone else to be around, nobody does. So we're going to go there to clean it up for you guys, so nobody else really has to.
Thank you very much. So I have some comments that I'll share after I open the floor to councillors who may have comments or questions as far as the photographs or at least the displays. If you want to leave those with our staff for us to put out, for example, on the lobby, I think we would be more than happy to do that, and Jennifer can probably help you with that, and Jennifer's just raised her hand. So Councillor Gill and Councillor Hamilton to start us off, then I'll go to Councillor Plekas.
Thank you, Mayor Horn. Kristen, I do want to thank you. I've been able to attend a couple of your guys' meetings, and I do condemn and really thank you guys for the work you guys do. I do have 3 questions just listening to you guys speak. You did talk about funding and funding running short. How are you guys funded?
Okay, so the program actually started in Abbotsford in 2018, and we donated some of our funds in order to start one in Mission, since we had people from Mission coming to our Abbotsford meetings. So, like, the word, it got so far that we had to support another group. So we took some of those funds from that.
Reaching homes.
Yeah, it was Reaching Homes. We had some funds from DWS, which is Drug War Survivors Network. That's in BC and Yukon. And we have a couple other kind of small funders, and so we've been taking from those piles, but we are not sure if they will be renewed.
Thank you. When we get to my comments, I'll talk a little bit about that as well, Councillor Gill, but if you have comments on that, I'm sure they'd be happy to hear them.
Thank you, Mayor Horn. I know we would be great advocates, especially if we could go after federal or provincial grants for you guys and send letters to the mayor's office. So please keep us in the loop if you ever need us. And I guess 2 more questions I have. You did talk about a business contacting you guys to help clean up an area. Can residents also contact you and notify you of areas that are taken over by garbage or illegal dumping?
Yeah, of course. We
So-
would just like to get our name out there and, have people see what it is we do, so you guys don't actually have to clean up anything, especially if it's not your mess to clean up.
If you have a business or a residence and you find some needles or other sharps, what we do is a fee for service. So that is like $30 an hour for 2 people to come to the residence or the place of business to do up the cleanup. So we have a lot of human waste that we've done a lot of calls for. And yeah, just needles everywhere. There's a lot of glass.
They would reach you through Impact Society, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Gill?
And my last question, how many members of the community are you having to come to these cleanups?
For the first maybe 3 or 4 months while we tried to get this going, we sat at a table at my house and maybe had 4 or 5 people consecutively come. We had to move from my house because the whole backyard filled up. We had about 60 people at a few of our meetings where we actually had to condense and get them to vote for a stewarding group. So they're all welcome to come to the community cleanups, which are bigger areas that more than 2 people need to clean up, that we do every 2 weeks. So they're able to get an honorarium for that, but we couldn't come up with a lot of
Yeah, so
bigger topics with that many people.
our-
It was great to flourish.
our
though.
stewarding group, it basically is a small number of people who make the decisions on where the money is going to go.
Great. Thank you.
Excellent. You know what? Honestly, thank you so much for the work you do in our community.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you, Mayor Horn. Thank you for the work that you do. I just want to be clear. So you're an Abbotsford group with a mission kind of satellite group of people that are, I recognize the mission folks there. So, and do you work in conjunction with an outreach team, or are you strictly cleanup?
We are the outreach team.
They're part.
We bring harm reduction to everything we go to.
Okay.
So if people aren't comfortable going to one of the other places, or they don't have access of leaving wherever it is they are, we can go there. Our first priority is relationship building. So we don't go in and say, excuse me, but your area is dirty, we're gonna come clean. We wait until we're invited over there. We want to, that's why it took us a few months before we did cleans. We want people to come to us, know about us, and then have them have the idea of, let's go clean over here. And we say, are you sure? And they say, yes, please come over. I'd love to show you my dwelling. And they're amazing. I feel like I've just been invited over to someone's house for coffee, and I'm really appreciative of this relationship that we've built with everybody.
When you look, I'm looking through the album and I see some of your sites here with bags and bags of debris that you've picked up. Does that all go to the landfill?
Depends on what it is. Normally, yes, because we don't have access to recycling. It is hard to get even one of those big contractor bins from Supersave is
yeah.
what we normally use. So unfortunately, most of that does go. I have a small thing of recycling in the back of my van that I go and drop off at the end personally because I felt bad putting it all into the landfill. I don't have a broader way of fixing this issue right now.
We have smaller teams that go out throughout the week, and they do have more capacity to do recycling.
Thank you for the work that you do.
Just before we move on to Councillor Plekas, just checking with our audio, was Councillor Hamilton close enough to her microphone there, or does she need to be closer? Okay, perfect, thank you. Councillor Plekas.
Thank you, and you've answered 2 of my questions, but I want to thank you for your leadership, Kirsten, and for your speaking today, the young people, because I think you speak very with courage, and I'm glad to see that you're doing what you're doing, because there certainly is a challenging work that you do, and I appreciate that. I think that when we look at many people who are in camps and that, they do collect quite a bit of debris, and certainly it can be quite messy, so you're taking on quite a challenge on behalf of the community. One of my questions was to do with your connection with My House, and you've indicated you are connected to them, and my other question was, is Public Works involved in picking up the garbage for you, or do you deliver it yourself? Because certainly that, I know they do, if you leave the garbage on the side, will they pick it up?
Normally, we just take it away ourselves. We're trying not to step on any toes. We're pretty self-sufficient. I have been telling some of our crew members, like I said, we do pay them an hourly wage to go out on their own to do small cleans, and if they're over their capacity to bring it with them, we haven't, kind of suggested that they put them along the side of the road where City Works can clean them up, but I don't think we've really had a need for them as of yet. We do use I forget who it is I call, someone comes around and gets all the carts. We have been scavenging a lot of carts from different places so we could send them back. So they've been called at the end of all of our cleans to come and pick those up as well.
Struggle sometimes with the household garbage that citizens dump at homeless camps. I know a few weeks ago in Abbotsford, we had a giant piano that had been dropped off, and it took a long time for us to take it all apart so that we could dispose of it.
Well, you know, I really appreciate, and it's amazing amount of work you're doing, because it is stuff that people, like you've indicated, people drop it off, leave it, but just to have the want to do that and say, here, we're here to clean up, it's amazing, literally amazing. So thank you a lot for it. I hope that we can work to see some funding arrangements to continue this. Thank you.
Councillor Davies, and I'll look to my left after that to see if others wish to speak. Councillor Davies?
Good evening, and thank you very much, Kristen, Jordy, and Jenny, for speaking today. It's an excellent service that you're doing, and really appreciate it. I do have a question, though. Beyond just coming to get your name out today, if beyond the funding needs that you are always going to have, what are the other things that you would ask a city or a government to bring forward for you?
There was things that we spoke about that would be helpful to us. So the one, I know we talked to Jack, he came out a couple times and talked about maybe having like a sea can so we could have supplies, like, you know what I mean? Because there's an endless, we constantly need garbage, bags, gloves, and then, unfortunately, sometimes, like, you know what I mean, the picker, like the stuff that we bring to supply everyone coming to the cleans, sometimes like stuff will go, so wheelbarrows, like anything like that. And we were actually looking for a donation just for a truck, like to take those bigger things so we can actually like remove like couches, stuff like that, or help in emergency situations to keep someone from, you know what I mean, if someone has to move like constantly, like this is a homeless outreach kind of program, so like there's a lot of crises where like people are just kicked out, like camps every day are just being like obliterated, yeah. So basically people have nowhere to go, and like for the few things that they do have on them, you know what I mean, I think it's important for them to get to somewhere safe, like, and as well as there's no 24-hour OPS safe spot for anybody to go unless you're clients. Like we do have the Hollow in the Haven, but they only are open for clients, and after that they're shut down. So people basically have zero place to go if they do become homeless. So that is something that I think should be talked about as well, that there is actually nowhere that someone could go. They actually are sent out on the streets, and that is how we get all this accumulation of garbage in certain areas. You know what I mean? Because really people have no choice at all. They have nowhere to go, and that's a true thing. So yeah, can you touch base? Yeah, go for it.
As I said, one of the priorities of our group is building the relationship between us and the homeless community. They have a lot of triggers from being told, you can't live that way, you can't live here, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, what are they supposed to do? I'm not here to tell people how to live their life, but I am here to accept them for who they are. That being said, if somebody has a warrant or has anything like that, it's not my business. I don't ask. What I would prefer is if people can realize that this is a group where people are trying to better themselves on their own accord, and if they see someone perhaps who may have a warrant, if they could step aside and talk to them and maybe do it outside of BEAP time. It was an issue that came up in the past where I wasn't going to bring it up at that point, but it would be very helpful just to build the gap in the relationship. Even if we could talk about it after, where one of the members, such as myself, Brittany, who is our executive director, or anyone like that, we could even bring them down to wherever it is we need to meet them at the end of it. It just brings a lot of negative light when you see a bunch of street community people and cop cars around. Everyone really assumes that it's the worst when it's really not. I would really like to think this is a great group, and that's not what we want to be known for. That's a big ask, but I thought I'd throw it out there since you ask.
Oh, it's excellent. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, also, I'm sorry. In case you guys haven't noticed, there is a train that runs right through the town. One thing that everyone lives around is the train because there's no other buildings around it, so they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. We do a lot of cleanups in and around this area, but something that has kind of been a barrier for us is we can't cross the tracks without having CP Rail have their own flagger system to make sure that nobody gets hit by a train in the 2 hours that we're cleaning every 2 weeks.
I'm gonna ask folks that we kind of bring this to a bit of a close. I'm gonna give you some tools here.
Okay.
I think when it comes to questions of how we might be able to help you, Councillor Gill's given you one insight, and I'm going to add another. I think the scope of what a city can do is difficult sometimes to embrace, but CP Rail is outside of our bailiwick. We have no control over them. And historians in Canada's history would say nobody has. So as far as the RCMP, we allow them to do their work at arm's length. But there is an outreach table, and they sit at that table, and that's where impact can have, no pun intended, an impact in that remark. However, I think it's really important, and I've worked for 40 years in human services. In human services, people sometimes need to think in a business lens. One of the things I'm going to recommend, and strongly recommend, is that you take advantage of looking at how you might bring forward a funding proposal that looks at working in partnership with other grants and with other branches of governments, whether it's a fee-for-service arrangement or whether it's taking advantage of one of our municipal funded grants already. But some of the work you're doing fits in the bailiwick of what we do already. We already spend money on cleanup and so forth. And so my background, having done the Engaged Community Guide program, which came before BEAP, I understand it extremely well. I get exactly why you're doing it, and I see the value for the dollar. It's about putting together a proposal that says we can do something that has bigger payoff and costs less. And if you want to try and put something like that together and bring it to us, it's a part of our upcoming budget deliberations, that would be a smart move. You'll have to be agile in doing that, and I'll offer as a person to be a sounding board if you want in terms of formatting. But you really do need to bring something that now follows in the wake of your introduction and your relationship building, which are wise things, by putting some numbers on paper and describing how it meets some of the mandates that the city has. And as Councillor Gill said, endorsements from council as well as leveraging might allow you to use that to go and get further dollars, including things like Reaching Home grants and other programs that exist out there. So I want to really encourage you to reach back out, and I don't know if Jennifer has a copy of one of my cards there or her card, but here, I'll give you one right here. If you want to come up and get it from me, Jordy, I'll give it to you. But please email me, and we'll sit down and we'll talk about some of the programs that exist for funding already, and whether or not there's a way for you to bring a proposal that this council might consider on a fee-for-service basis. I have been through the work you're doing, and I understand how hard it is to sustain funding, so I'd be definitely interested in having that conversation. Okay? The only other thing I'll say is thank you. And I know that Trevor and I have crossed paths many times, and Terry, and I know you have some very committed people working out there, and I know that the work you're doing is making a big difference, so thank you from all of us. Okay? Thank you.
Work in a lot of small groups, I can say that this is one of my favorites, just saying.
They're pretty cool people.
Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Have a good night.
Oh, thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, everybody. And by the way, I'll say this right now so that everybody who's here tonight understands this. If your group presents and doesn't want to stick around for the other group, we will happily give you moments to transition out. We can tell how full the chambers are. Do not feel like you have to sit around for everybody else. So if you're finished and you want to leave, please do so. Have a great evening.